Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World, and we are here for another Friday Night Lights, our very, very favourite debate show, where we pick a subject and we just kind of hash it out. We talk, look at it from different angles, have a little bit of a deep dive. We've talked about potential wingers, we've talked about strikers, we've talked about all sorts of different subjects every Friday, and this week will be no different. But we're going to dig into the kind of the academy system and the youth players at Cardiff City. As another young player left for Man City this week. Is it lost millions, or is the academy fulfilling this job? We will discuss, but as always, we would like your comments, questions, interactions, as it were. And we are 1 week away from Craig Bellamy and Noel Mooney at Splott Cons Club, presented by Ace Podcast Nation and myself. So very, very, very excited for that. But let's dig into it. As always, I'm joined by the Greek League, also known as Pan, the reverse this time. But how are you, my friend? You good? Are you there? You good, Pan?
Hi, Si, you okay?
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay there. How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, good. Yeah, a bit hot, but can't complain, can we?
No, that's it. We complain when it's raining, and then as soon as it gets sunny, we're like, it's too hot. But it has been toasty the last couple of days, to say.
It has been, yeah.
But look, mate, there's a lot to discuss with this subject, so we are going to sort of dig into it quite quickly into the show. But before we do that, there are a few little bits which I wanted to discuss. First and foremost, Ryan Wintle left out of the tour squad. I pointed out, so there's two sides to this, and Henry Say pointed out on Twitter earlier on that I had pointed out around Christmas time, just after I think it was, that there was some issues within the dressing room, and there were certain players who weren't on board with Bullet. And if Bullet did get his new contract, you'd likely see some of those players go. Now, I didn't sort of name any of those players, and I'm certainly not saying that Ryan Wintle is definitely one of those players. But I think from a football point of view, he's been a tremendous servant for the football club. I also think in that Rotherham game, I didn't like some of the things I saw at the end of that season. We just got stuffed by Rotherham, and he was kind of laughing, and I'm not a big fan of that at all. But also, I think, and probably more likely to be the reason that he's been allowed to go, is he was kind of the odd one out. When you looked at the sort of deeper midfield options, you had Joe Rolls is the club captain, just signed a new contract. Siopis is Bullet's man, just came in last year. Turnbull has just come in January for a couple of million. And then you've got the young option in Joel Colwell and Eli King, which I'm sure the manager will have a look at. And then potentially Wintle's the odd one out, really, because they're not going to sell any of the others. It's clear they want at least one midfielder who can play deeper. So he was always the obvious one for me, which you could get a bit of money for, and probably the one to make room. I have been shocked how quickly Bullet has moved. Like I said last week, how the club deserved credit for how they were going about getting players in, the quality, the quickness of it, how tight all the leaks have been. Like all around, I think we're acting like a proper football club for a change, which is refreshing. But I'm quite refreshed to see how he's said, no, this is my tour squad. You're free to find another football club, because he's not part of his plans. And just lastly, before I pass over to you, mate, is if you look at the way we have played in pre-season in the midfield areas and the attacking areas, it's very clear that we are making a transition to quicker football, a lot more movement off the ball. Now, I understand you can only play what's in front of you, and we haven't played any really strong teams yet. But there is definitely a change in the way we are going about our business and the type of football that we're trying to play. And that probably doesn't suit Ryan Wintle's game. Now, Ryan Wintle, I think, is a decent defensive midfielder. I think that the issue that we have in terms of the football side of things is he's not the most progressive of midfielders. He's not going to kind of break the lines with these kind of passes, and he's certainly not going to do it quickly, which is something that I think we really need to enable us to play the way Bullet wants to play. Were you surprised that he was not in the touring squad? And again, with him, looks like he's going to be leaving. Are you surprised by that?
No, I agree with Simon, what you just said. I mean, obviously a couple of seasons ago, Wintle was probably one of our best players, if not he was player of the year, I think. So to be fair to Wintle, he came in under the radar really, and took time to sort of settle in, but Cardiff City fans took to him in terms of what his job was. And I think it's a tough one, isn't it? Because, as you said, club captain Rals, and then your Bullet brought in Siopis. So, obviously there's 3 into 2, and we don't, we can't afford to have 3 or 4, what I would say first team-ish players in one position. So I agree with you. I think, he's done the right thing, Bullet, in sending the message out straight away that, look, find another club. Wintle, is clear and cut now. Wintle knows, he's got to be going elsewhere. And I think obviously now the squad's been announced for Austria. Other clubs going to be alerted. They're going to need someone in that position. And I'd be interested to see how much we get. Whether we, a couple of years ago, he was valued at 3 mil, when he was playing really well. Would we get $1 million, $1.5 million for him? A bit like Ebo Adams. And I think, it's the right thing to do. I mean, he hasn't played as well, Sayers, in the last season for us. He's taken our corners, not very good. Sometimes he's playing in a more forward position. He's not that type of player, but obviously he's not really an 8. But on his day, he's a very good passer. And I wish him all the best. But yeah, let's hope we can get a decent fee for him.
Yeah, I think if we can get like $1 million up front for him, I'd be very happy with that. And look, I'm not like, when I've said, like, it's a purely football opinion, I just think the way that we're moving now as a football club and as a football team, the way the manager wants to play, the quality of players that we're bringing in is probably, he's not quite a good fit for that. But that's not to say he's a terrible footballer. I think he's a decent lower championship footballer, but I think he is also good at a certain role. And he's not going to play in front of Siopis. And he's not really, like you say, he's not really an 8, and he's most definitely not a 10. And I think, look, in fairness to him, he's been a good servant to the football club. He also, he doesn't pick the team. So the manager asked him to play as an 8. The manager asked him to play as a 10. The manager asked him to play in a flat 3. That was the manager's decision and the coaching staff's decision. And he did it. Now,
yeah.
I know we as fans and, podcasts and things like that, we're going to analyze the performance and we're going to critique it to a certain extent. So when you're playing in a role that doesn't suit your attributes and your skill set, it is difficult. So I accept that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I said that I think it was the day after Bullet signed his new deal that I think people would be a little bit surprised at how quickly they might move certain people out just because they haven't gelled with the manager for whatever reason. And I think, Romeo I would expect him to be gone relatively quick. I think Robinson is slightly different because I think he won't go until we get a striker in. But I would expect when we do get a striker in, I think Robinson will go. And I will say, because I've questioned Robinson's kind of attitude over the last season. So I think it's only fair to say that everybody who I've spoken to in and around the football club have said that in this preseason and over the summer, Callum Robinson's attitude, work rate, mentality to the team, to the training, to the group, to the manager has been tip top, like absolutely spot on. And I don't think there's a question about his ability. And it's like, if he could keep up that mentality and attitude for the whole season, I would be perfectly happy for him to be one of 2 options to play as a number 9 for Cardiff City. But I guess my question is, going on what's happened last season, if he's not in the team for the first 5 games, or he gets 2 minutes, 5 minutes at the end of those games, is the same issue going to rear its head? Is it going to be disagreements with the manager, because that does affect the group. He will have friends in the team and stuff like that, and it does cause an issue, which is why I had said previously, is it better to just shake hands, thank you, go our separate ways for everyone? But we'll see, mate, I guess. Interesting one in the comments straight away. Paul says, and Reese as well, are you surprised that Rinamoto has gone to Austria whilst they've left, Romeo Wintle, and also young Turner stayed at home, but I know they're very impressed with this new young keeper they've got, so maybe they're just giving him a chance. Were you surprised to see Rinamoto?
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, I think most City fans don't want Rinamoto there. He doesn't really add anything to sign to what the direction we're going in. If it's a League One club who are sort of got aspirations in the top half, maybe that's where he should be looking at, but he's not going to get game time in my view. So I think he's definitely surplus to requirements. As far as Robinson's concerned, I mean, obviously you said about what happened with Bullet. I don't think Bullet has forgotten in a way, because when you're a professional player, you've got to perform. And if you're letting down the manager at any point, it's all well and good him training really well and the reports are really good. But from his point of view, he could be looking to have a move away. And if his attitude wasn't right, then obviously that's going to influence other clubs wanting to sign him. So you can look at it on both sides of the coin. The fact that he's got the right attitude and he wants to show Bullet what he can do, or is it he's got the right attitude to get out? Because other clubs aren't going to want him. If he's had a history of falling out with manager, obviously other clubs are aware of that. So it could work both ways. So I don't know. I think Robinson, and I know we all got opinions, so I disagree with you about Callum Robinson's a 9. I just think, for me, he works better behind the front guy. And he can sort of play left as well. He does score goals when he's in good positions. He is a goal scorer, but his goal scoring record for us isn't anything exceptional. So no. I wouldn't be disappointed if someone came in for him and took him off us for $1.5 million.
Yeah, I think ultimately, mate, whilst I disagree with you, I think every time he played as a kind of number 10 for us last year, I thought we looked quite poor. But I agree, he can play off the left, he can play through the middle. I think my biggest issue is, if we sign a striker, I don't see where he fits in anyway, because Willock's going to play, Colwell's going to play, Ramsey's going to play when he's fit. So that's 4 places gone straight away. I think we're likely to probably sign at least another winger. Then you've got Turnbull, you've got Ashford, you've got Isaac Davis, and I would argue that all those names I've just mentioned are probably ahead of him in the pecking order. Certainly at the moment. Now, whether that changes on performances is another thing. I think, look, I kind of stick by what I said. I think it's probably best for all concerned to just part ways. With Rinamoto, the one thing I would say is my theory on why he's in and about the squad now, whilst some others aren't, is basically he's Romeo's replacement as the kind of the Phil Neville, if you like, and the John O'Shea, or like that versatile player who can play, right back, midfield, wing. He can kind of slot him wherever you need him. Doesn't really kick up a fuss if he's on the bench. So whilst I don't expect him to be involved when the season gets going, and I think he probably will be moved on in pre-season at least, he's probably a handy player to have around the group just to fill in.
The other thing to say, Si, is what fans have to remember is as well, another club has to be interested in a player.
Yes.
And he's not going to go for any money. But the point is, if he's on a fairly large salary and he's got a year left, why would he leave if another club from League One came in and offered him half his salary? So we don't know if the club have been trying to get him out, but no one's interested. So then what are you going to do?
Yeah, you're limited, aren't you? At the end of the day, you can only sell players if there's a club which wants to buy them. And the other strong rumor this week, which I think is is fairly public now, is Alex Robertson, who is a midfielder from Manchester City, 21 years old, was on loan at Portsmouth last year. Obviously, Portsmouth got promoted. Very, very highly rated. I did a bit of digging yesterday and asked my friend who works up in Manchester in like the local media, what the verdict is. And apparently he's very, very highly rated with Manchester City, and they don't particularly want to sell him on a permanent, but we want to sign him on a permanent. If that makes sense, we don't want him on a loan. But by all accounts, if you go on social media and search his name, it is just Portsmouth fans bemoaning the fact that he's coming to us. So up in Portsmouth, it seems to be, they all seem to be of the opinion that he's coming to us. So that's encouraging. The little bit that I sort of checked out of him, he looks pretty exceptional. The people who I've spoken to who are more familiar with him say he is, if he, as with all young players, if he does the right things off the field, he has got the ability and the mentality to go and be an exceptional footballer. And obviously he's a good age. He's 21. He's ready for first team football. He's gone and played, I think he played all season, or 20, certainly played 20 plus games last year for Portsmouth in League One. So he's had that experience. Portsmouth were looking to bring him back. So it would be, I don't know, it remains to be seen with any sort of young footballer if they really can push on in the Championship. But by all accounts, he's highly rated. We're in for him, among others. Were you excited by that when you heard that we were sort of strongly linked with him?
Yeah, I think I've seen some bits and pieces about him, and I'm the same as you, Si. Really excited. He's got a hell of a lot of ability, tremendous skills. Bit like Ramsey, technically on the ball. He's absolutely superb for his age, and Pompey fans absolutely loved him. And he was, very important to them in terms of their promotion to the Championship. So they desperately want him back. He's well schooled at Man City. Technically very good. My wife's really impressed because his middle name's Pablo and his mother's Peruvian, like my wife. So she's hoping he signs, and then she can go down with a Peruvian flag and get a few autographs and photos with him. So she's excited about that. But yeah, what I've seen, the fact that we're looking to sign this player, maybe for $1 million, $1.5 million is really encouraging, because we're trying to build a squad. I think with this recruitment team, we can see a different direction we're going in. And I think everything we've done so far has been, all fans would agree that it's been really good business.
Yeah, look, if you look at the quality of players that we've brought in, Chambers, Willock, then you look at even the players that we've just been rumoured to be speaking to, Robertson, Casey McAteer. These are players who are going to come in, and they straight away you're strengthening the upper echelons of the squad, not the seat, not the floor. So like by bringing in players who are in the top tier of the squad, if you like, in terms of quality, the squad becomes so deep instantly, and I haven't been this excited about a season for a long time, mate. And one of the reasons I'm so excited about that is, yes, the quality that we're bringing in, the quality that we're being linked with, but it's also, I can't remember, mate, and you're a little bit older than me, so you may be able to tell me better, but I can't remember the last time that there was definitely 4, maybe 5 youth players coming through who have legitimate claims to play first team football this season. I can't remember the last time that happened for Cardiff.
Yeah,
Like
when I talked on a previous podcast, with you, Si, in the early 80s, obviously when I started supporting the City, the players who were coming through, the Badleys and Abrahams, they were defenders. These lads wouldn't survive in League One, never mind the Championship, So, in the old days when we had 2 or 3 local lads coming through, they were never nowhere near the level that we're playing at now. So we've definitely moved up a gear or two. And it's great to see, because how many years have we had where we've said, well, what's going on with the academy? What's going on with the academy? Nothing's coming through. Where's the next Ramsey? What's going on? Why haven't we brought in, what's wrong with our academy? When you look at Southampton's and other teams who seem to have a factory of young players, developing them, moving them on, and we've got to be doing it. And it's great to see that. I think it's Chesterfield. He used to be Barry Town's manager.
Gavin
He's
Chesterfield,
Yeah, he's head of the whole thing. So I think we've become a lot more professional in the whole running of it. The guys in the academy running the show seem to know what they're doing, and I think it's great to see these young players, coming through it. And as I said, we can only go on snippets, can't we? Conte played 3 games. He looked superb, but they're young players, Si. And I have to always say, go back to Joe Bagan, left back. We come in, people get excited, but he really dropped off the radar. So you've got to be a little bit. It's good to have that enthusiasm with young players, but you've got to be a bit realistic as well. And sometimes they need to go out on loan, and it's bringing them in at the right time.
Yeah, and I think, so like on Raheem Conte, for instance, he was able to show it in the first team for little glimpses at the end of the season. He's then continued that in pre-season, and I think with these players, I think maybe the difference to years gone by is Gavin Chesterfield and Darren Pearson and the rest of the kind of people within that system over the last 2 or 3, 4 years, maybe longer, have now been quietly going about their business and building players, and all of them are so technically proficient that if you're when they've got that bit of ability or that bit of something special, they're able to push on. And I'm hopefully, look, no one's saying that they should all be starting now, but it would be nice, I think, if Conte gets some minutes as the backup full right back. Pacquiao, all right, he's only 17, but look, he did exceptionally well for the Wales under-17s, and he came on, played in the preseason friendly the other day, was excellent, very, very, real good, skillful player. I wonder, just from what I've seen of him recently with Pacquiao, I wonder whether he might end up being a winger, just by some of his body movements remind me more of a winger than a fullback. But I'm told by people who watch a lot more like youth football than what I would do, that he's actually an exceptional defender as well. So, he's a real exciting one. Joel Colwell looks like he's one of the criticisms or one of the worries with Joel was that he wasn't big enough yet to have the rigors of the sort of championship. No one doubts his ability, is whether he was going to be strong enough physically. And all of a sudden, I saw a picture of him alongside his brother the other day, and he is definitely been on a strength and conditioning, course or whatever, some sort of regime. And also, of course, these boys, some of them are so young that they're still growing. They're still growing into their man's body and things like this. It's genuinely exciting. I think the standout youth player or academy player in the preseason so far for me has been Fagan Walcott. I think he's been exceptional, like not just defensively, but on the ball. I've been super impressed. He looks like someone who has really benefited from that loan up in Scotland because
he's had Dunfermline money for quite a few games, and we talk about young players, go into these clubs in places like Scotland and coming back a man, and he's the right age, and he's early 20s now. He's physically strong, isn't he, Si? Again, he's technically really good, well schooled at Tottenham. So it's exciting, isn't it, to see some of these young lads getting opportunities. But I think again, as City fans, I think if we're looking to be competitive in that top 10, we've got to be a bit more. We've got to be realistic as well. We hope one of them plays, and can do really well, or even more than that. But you can't always rely on these younger lads and put too much pressure on them. And I think Bullet knows that. He'll know which one. Maybe Conte can come in and do his bit, but I don't think he's going to be looking at Walcott anything other than maybe a backup. I think you would admit that as well.
Yeah, I think Walcott Fagan to me looks like if they've assuming McGuinness, obviously McGuinness hasn't been sold at the moment, so you've got Chambers, McGuinness, and Gutas as your 3 senior centre backs. We only play 2 at the moment, so we don't need another senior fullback really. We've got those 3, and then Fagan Walcott as the sort of 4th choice. I think works fine because you've also, you've got some other players who are flexible enough, and you can play 3 at the back and things like that. So there's different ways to manage that. And I think what I would like to see is these lads on the bench, because one thing I do think with young players like Ashford's, Conte, etc., is they can be exciting when a tight game. They play without fear. They're raw and they're direct, and I think that can be a real benefit sometimes over a more sort of travelled player, because they've been kind of almost, for lack of a better term, kind of drilled down by the game, especially in the Championship where every game is so intense. Having those young players come off the bench, be a bit direct, be a bit pacey, be a bit raw, I think can do some interesting things. One of the things I wanted to kind of put to you, mate, I know like people have been quite critical of the young lad who's gone to Man City, and it's like, oh, Cardiff have lost another player to it. Like, Biancheri went to United and is excelling there by all accounts. But I think it's important to say Category 1 academies lose players to other Category 1 academies all the time. It's impossible to stop, especially once they get to that age of where there's not so many restrictions around the areas, like where you can't sign a player from Italy or something like that, or technically you're not supposed to. You're kind of supposed to focus on your area, and then when it gets to scholarship age is when it kind of opens up to the whole of the country. But I think it's important. It is important to say that it's not just Cardiff who it's happening to. It's not just Premier Leagues picking off smaller clubs. It happens between Premier League clubs with Category 1 status as well. It is impossible to stop, but also, if let's use Biancheri as an example, because he's gone and done very well for United's under-18s. If he carries on, playing at the level, and he's good enough, and over the next 2 years, and he's 18, 19, and he's playing well enough, he will play for United. They are a team who will play, which is good for Cardiff because then they will get more money. So the way I think I'm not fully fluent in it, but the way I understand it is effectively the better they do at the club they go to, the compensation will be in place, depending on how it's been negotiated, because you'll have a basic and stuff. And you have to take into account profit and sustainability and all these different things. Of course, it could be better to protect smaller clubs, to enable them to keep these real, the genuinely talented players in their academy and bring them into the first team, and then they can sell them for a few million. But ultimately, the way the system's set up at the moment, it is unavoidable. There's not a lot you can do other than try and negotiate compensation as best you can and things like this. I would question, so I know we kind of named today's episode Lost Millions, or is the academy doing its job? For me, I think the academy is in the best shape it's been for a long time in terms of bringing players in. I don't remember any recent players who've been from the Cardiff area, so like your Gareth Bales and some others who were from Cardiff but somehow ended up at Southampton's academy and not Cardiff's. I don't remember many of those, but obviously we have had we have had the likes of Rabi Matondo and Jafet Matondo, Biancheri, these types of players who have, gone on, they've been in the Cardiff system and then left. It's part of football, isn't it? There's not a lot you can do with it, but I don't think you can blame anyone within our football club for that happening, because it's just the way the system is set up. Have you frozen? I think you have. It's frustrating though, isn't it? Because Biancheri, for instance, I think he probably plays. He's in our first team squad now. He's playing for United's under-18s, scoring goals. They did very well and won the league. He would have been on the bench at the end of last season for sure. especially when we needed a striker. Obviously, you know, Rabi Matondo's playing for Rangers, I think it is at the moment, and has gone on and played first team football. So that again in itself is a bit frustrating because could he be in a Cardiff shirt? Obviously, his brother this week has gone. I mean, it'd be interesting what people think in the comments with it, because it is it's a frustrating thing, isn't it? But what do you think, mate? I know it's you're unfrozen now, so like, what do you think about it? Because I think a lot of it is because of the way the system's set up. But it is a bit frustrating, isn't it, when you see the likes of the Matondo brothers and Biancheri going and playing, and you're like, well, they could be in our first team now, or not? You know.
Yeah, I think my point on it was after Brexit, really, it changed the whole picture for clubs outside the Premier League side. I mean, before Brexit, you know, for example, Jafet Matondo's gone to Stoke City, you know, and he's. Obviously, he can do whatever he likes. He's at that age where he can do that. Under the Premier League elite performance training compensation, you can only get X amount. You can't get a sell-on. So the whole system is geared for the top Premier League clubs. And what is created is even a bigger divide between the haves and have-nots. So for clubs like Cardiff City, it's all well and good. We're in that, you know, situation, like, for example, Sunderland's and Chef Wednesday's, we're all in the same boat. You bring through a young lad, you get a training compensation fee. I mean, Jafet, if you look at his brothers, we said he went for £500,000 to Manchester City, signed for Schalke for sort of 11.3. Now, if we had a 25% sell-on clause, we'd have got 2.8 million. So if you're judging it on Robbie Matondo getting that fee, 2.8 million as a sell-on, if you look at Jafet, obviously he's gone to Stoke. We got our 200,000 compensation, but then other players like Charlie Crew, 200,000, 250,000 to Leeds. He's going to obviously probably have a big sell-on fee in a couple of years' time. Biancheri, who you said at Manchester United, really promising midfield play. Timmy O'Whisker has gone to Manchester City, another lad. So there's 5 lads who've actually gone in the last few years for a fee of around 250 to 500,000 under this Premier League performance elite training compensation package. Has brought in about £1.5 million. Now, if you base it on Matondo with that sort of 25% sell-on clause, those 5 players, we could have been getting back 10, 11 million. Now, I know that's the system, but I just wanted to highlight really that before Brexit, there would have been a whole different scheme in place. You know, we would have gone to arbitration and everything else, and I think what it's done, Si, is just Manchester Cities of this world are just snipping off all the best young talent in the country, and your Chelseas, if you like, and then they know what they're doing. They're signing a lot of these lads thinking they've got a future at the Premier League club, but Manchester City are not stupid. They're thinking, right, this guy, we're not going to really want him. We'll develop him. We'll sell him on then. That we've got a good recruitment system and transfer policy system set up all over the world. We'll look at clubs in the Bundesliga. We've signed him for 250. 2 years later, he's gone for 10 million, and they're getting richer. Whereas clubs like ourselves, you know, all that hard work, 8, 9, 10 years that young player's been in the academy, and if you work it out over that period of time, you're probably getting 20,000 a year. You know, it's nothing. And I think I just wanted to highlight that we've really brought on some fantastic young talent who could, like Matondo. Okay, he hasn't done as well as maybe we thought he would after going to Schalke, but he's still playing at a reasonably high level at Rangers. And these other lads could go on to have better careers, you know.
And I mean, the Man City example obviously is James Trafford. They brought him through their academy, you know, did very well, and then sold him for 30 million, and he never played a first team minute for him. And it's remarkable, mate. That is absolutely remarkable that they're capable of doing that. But as you say, it's geared for the big clubs versus the smaller clubs. It is frustrating because I'll say now, I think Biancheri will end up playing for Manchester United's first team. Whether he goes on and becomes a regular is another thing, but I think he will make first team appearances. And it's not just Cardiff; it's the way the system is set up. Clubs our size are getting mugged off. I couldn't work out. Like I thought, Jafet Matondo to Stoke. I thought it was a weird one. I couldn't really work out what he was going to get there. But I did notice that his brother went there on loan twice. I think it was. So I think there's probably a previous relationship between the family and the club. But
yeah, I think Jafet Matondo went because of Rabi. The feedback was that when he was at Stoke, it's a great club to go to in terms of it. I wonder their academy status is better now as what are we, Academy 2 status, but there's only so many clubs who've got Academy 1. But at the end of the day, as I said, it's just frustrating for a club like Cardiff City. We've brought these guys through. Wouldn't it be fantastic to have Charlie Crew in the first team squad, Ian Carey in the first team squad, then there's Whisker, then there's Matondo, and then you've got all these other lads as well that are now coming through Conte as well. Can you imagine we could have a team of like these Man United young lads coming through all the same time, and it could have been something special. But yeah, I'm just really frustrated with the whole new system. And as I said, I know it's not Manchester City's fault. It's a result of Brexit that has created this even bigger divide between the Premier League and the EFL.
Do you know what I find the most frustrating? I agree with you, by the way, completely. But you know what really grates on me the most is that if we had been run better over the last 10 years, we'd be an established Premier League club. Like, let's make no mistake, Cardiff City, and this isn't me being like, big-headed and Cardiff think they're bigger than they are. If we were run properly, Cardiff City should be an established Premier League club. They should be. Yeah. They got everything's in place in the city, the infrastructure, the football club, the facilities. It's all there. It just mistakes at boardroom level have cost us at football level. If we were a Premier League football club, an established Premier League football club, I would argue that some of these players probably don't go because they would have more chance of first team Premier League football with us than they would go in to the academy. But of course, your United, your Liverpools, your Man Cities, your Chelseas, and foreign clubs as well. They've got a pull that we don't have at the moment. Like you got to accept it, haven't you? At the end of the day,
but you're right. But you're right, Si. What you said that if we were in the Premier League, there's no reason for those lads, to necessarily go to those because it's such. You've got to be an exceptional talent to get through to that first team. And I think, if, like you said, we made some huge mistakes in the past when we went to the Premier League. I mean, if you look at Brentford's, Fulham's, Bournemouth, they're Mickey Mouse clubs in my view. But the way they're run, I mean, we're a similar size, I think, to Brighton. But their owners are so good in terms of understanding what a football club needs. That they've been able to, as you said, generate huge amounts of money and sort of have that sustainability in the Premier League. Whereas obviously we made so many mistakes, obviously even when Warnock was there, in terms of, totally ignoring the younger players, just focusing on that first team squad, bringing in players for X amount of money. And obviously, we've been paying the price for it for a few years.
Yeah. It's hopefully in the long term, Wales will reap the benefits of these players going to the big clubs and your Jafet Matondo, by all accounts, is supposed to be exceptionally talented. Your Ian Careys, your Charlie Crews. If they go and establish themselves at those football clubs, it's going to be great for Welsh football. Doesn't really help Cardiff City, and you're right. The rule change and the Brexit kind of made it ridiculous because ultimately those players obviously it's different, isn't it? Because you can't start slapping like 100 million price tags on 15-year-olds. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to, it's not the way it should be. But you should have, I think, a basic compensation, which seems to be about 250 grand. But then there should be some sort of performance-related, sell-on fees and bonuses that go to the original club who've brought them through the academy system, whether it's based on how many years they've been at the football club or if it's their whole, I don't know how you would work it, but I do feel that, like, let's just use Jafet as an example. If he goes on and becomes a Ballon d'Or winner and, becomes one of the best footballers in the world, but we were almost forced to sell him for 250 grand because because of his age, and it becomes all a bit. Yeah, it's disappointing,
and
isn't it?
the other thing as well is, with Gabriel Bianchieri, he was playing for Cardiff City under-18s. He was offered a professional contract, and that's the key. Once they've signed that professional contract, that changes the ballpark, you know. And as I said, you know, Cardiff City were they couldn't do anything more, you know, in terms of you know, want to keep these players. And I said it's just a shame really that there is this bigger divide. But as I said, it is the same now, and it's not going to change with all the EFL clubs with this new system has been brought in place. But like you said, it is fantastic that with this show coming up with Craig Bellamy, you know, there are a number of young lads, Welsh lads, who are hopefully going to get, you know, playing Premier League football, you know, all around the same age. And we can look forward to a new generation of talent.
Yeah, I'm excited, mate, by the talent coming through at Cardiff and Wales. I think it's been a long time coming. And I think ultimately but I believe that if you're good enough, you're old enough. And I think you only have to look at the Euros most, you know, and look at the way Yamal has performed at age 16. Obviously, being able to perform at that level at the age of 16 is a bit of an anomaly. But generally speaking, I believe that if you've got the talent and ability and you're 18-ish, 19, if you get the chance to play and show it, I think you can be ready at that age. And I think the one thing which Cardiff, from a first team point of view, have not done well enough certainly over the last 10, 15 years, is we haven't given the best young players in our academy or the 23s, we haven't given them first team opportunities. I would like to think that last season and the way he seems to be integrating certain players this season or in pre-season and the way he's talking about them, that Bullet is looking to have a mix of quality proven players and young, exciting players and kind of integrate that all together, because I do think that's a real good recipe for it.
Yeah.
So it'll be, look, as I said, just to kind of wrap up, I'm super excited about this season, mate. I haven't been this excited about a season or certainly I haven't been this optimistic about a season with Cardiff for a very long time. When those fixtures came out, and me and Matt did like a little show where the fixtures come out, I was very sort of like, oh, that's a rough start, that is. But then seeing how we've gone about our business with the kind of ins, the outs, the way the manager is trying to change up the way we're playing in certain areas of the pitch, it's all very encouraging to me. Of course, if it stops now and then we kind of go back to normal Cardiff transfer behaviour for the rest of the window, then you kind of undo that positivity. And of course, we've got to translate what he's trying to build in his system and the way they're playing in pre-season. He's got to take that into the first team and he's got to take that into the season. But if this is the plan and this is how we're going to go about our business, I'm very optimistic. And I stand by what I said at the start of last year, that I believe if we give Errol Bullet time, he will be the man to really cement us where we should and would hope to be.
Yeah, no, I agree, Si. And I think, you know, he's come out and made a statement after the two signings saying that we need to get in a striker, we need to get in a winger, a midfielder, and in the defensive positions, one or two. So, you know, I know all the fans are maybe a little frustrated. They're itching to find out who that striker is going to be. But like you said, if we're signing players like the Alexander Robertsons of this world, who are technically superb, did a fantastic job at Portsmouth, you know, we're going in the right direction. Obviously, we've been linked with Tyrese Campbell. We've been linked with Ozo, who's a young lad at Palace. Again, another promising midfielder, young lad. You know, all these guys are obviously quality players. And I think that if we can, you know, I think the striker we get in is going to be quality without question. I think we're going to be really excited by it. You know, we're not going to, I don't think, like I said, we're going to get Chris Wood, as I said, but we are going to get someone who's got a lot of quality and will excite the fans. So we're definitely going in the right direction. The one thing I was going to say, and it's the one sort of negative that's come out of this transfer window so far, in my view, is that the McGuinness story is really kind of sort of made me a little bit flat because, if clubs are coming in at 5-6 million for him, and I believe the kind of clubs are going to come in for him, the Sheffield Uniteds and Burnleys of this world, if they're going to get him for 5 million, then he's with a 20% fee that Arsenal are going to get, that's 4 million, so we lose 1 million. And even though Chambers has come in, I would be really disappointed if McGuinness goes because, Chambers can play right back and centre back, and he's done a good job at right back. And I just feel that if we're losing McGuinness and Chambers is coming in, that would sort of not put a handbrake on, where we're going. And I think obviously you've got to trust the whole recruitment team because they've done a fantastic job so far, and every player's got their value. My view, 8 million quid for McGuinness, okay. But I personally, like I said, I was hoping that Cody Dramer would come in as our first team number 2 if NG gets sold. We don't know if anyone's come in for NG, and again that's another story. But I just feel McGuinness, when he got injured, I know Nat Phillips came in and did a really good job. But I think McGuinness, when he went on loan to Wednesday, come back, he did exceptionally well. And I think that's the type of lad, young player, he's going to get better and better. I just feel it's the wrong time to be looking to sell it. If we're looking to sort of get to that level of top 8, 6, where around that area, we need a squad. And Chambers, Walcott, Fagan, and McGuinness and Gutas would be a good central defensive 4, as the majority of teams probably outside the ones who come down from the Premier League. So that was the only one I was hoping that story fades away.
I think there's kind of two sides to it. I put a video out yesterday about Mark McGuinness and the fact that he might get sold. I think we never looked the same side last year as after McGuinness got injured. Even when Phillips did well in possession, we never looked the same. And a big part of that was because of how well Mark McGuinness can bring the ball out of defence and how well he can pass the ball as well as be defensively solid. I agree with you. I don't want to sell him. I think, unfortunately, Cardiff City are not in a position to turn down probably about 6.5 million. I think that's probably their price. But we're just not in a position to turn that down because of PSR and things like that. You just can't. And it's unfortunate because, and fair play to the club. Like you said, like it's kind of knocked you a little bit in terms of your positivity. Think of it this way, mate. Years ago, we would have snapped someone's hand off for 5 million and they turned down 5 million. So I think give them a bit of credit that they've earned over the last few weeks and say, all right, maybe they're going to hold out and they'll only sell him if the price is right for us. Because I don't think he's a player that we're looking to offload. I think there's many other players that we're looking actively to move on. I don't think he's someone we're looking to move on. It's just everyone's got a price, unfortunately. But I agree with you. I would try and get it up to sort of 7, because then we reap we get 5-6 million, whatever it is, rather than Arsenal taking a big chunk of it and you feel like you've sold him for next to nothing. And I hope he stays. I hope he stays. I hope he stays because I think he's a big. And I
think with Perry NG, obviously, he played one of the players of the year last year, wasn't he? And I'm not trying to come on here saying I don't like NG, but I just think with Conte and the young lad coming through 17, I think there's scope there. And I just think with Cody Dramer, Cody Dramer's on a free. He's there. I mean, we talked about keeper, didn't we? But Cody Dramer's on a free transfer. I just think, my God, but there's a number again. Behind the scenes, there's so many clubs, aren't there, that we don't know who's interested in who.
Yeah, there's so many factors.
And then it's like a cattle market. He's bid 16,000 a week. They're bidding 19. That's the only thing we, as fans, we sort of only speculate, don't we? But I just, fingers crossed, Si, that McGuinness does stay, because we're really building something here. And, I think it'll be exciting to see that he does stay and we can bring in some some other talent like the Robertsons and a couple of other lads who we've been linked with. Hamadi up front, didn't you said about him?
Yeah. So that's. I'm glad you mentioned him because I 5 minutes ago when you were talking about a striker, I said in my head I was like, I got a video coming out with him on Tuesday. Don't forget to mention it. And then we started talking about McGuinness, and I forgot. I've got a video coming out, a bit of a little scout report on Ali Al Hamadi coming out probably Tuesday at this rate. If things pick up a bit in relation to the links and stuff, I'll put it out a little bit earlier. But he had, very quickly, mate. Yeah. Would you be excited by him?
Well, it's an interesting one again, Si, because to be honest with you, he's a Swansea reject. You know, he had 2-3 seasons there, and I know certain players don't work out at certain clubs. Went to Wimbledon, did really well, and he sort of had 14 games, I think, at Brighton, scored 4 goals. So obviously Brighton don't sign. You know, the players that Brighton sign, their recruitment policy is so good. I don't think I've seen one player signed for Brighton who's been a dud or is someone who's just gone off the radar. So they obviously think of this lad as someone who's got a bit of quality about him. So yeah, I mean, like I said, you mentioned about Tyrese Campbell as well. You know, he's available on free, but I had a look at Tyrese Campbell. He's 24. And the last 4 seasons, you know, in his 4 seasons ago, he did reasonably well, scoring 9-10 goals in 40-odd games. But if you look at him since then, he's continued to drop, and he's averaging sort of 1 goal in every 5, which, you know, for a striker, I'm not overly keen. I know we're supposedly 1 of 6 club interested, but that could just be paper talk again because, you know, he's 24, available on a free, has scored some goals in the Championship, but he's not what I would call, you know, someone to go, oh yeah, he really excites me. So yeah, we're linked with, you know, these kind of guys. I said about Devontae Cole because of his record being better. I talked about Ross Stewart because his record is goal every other game or every 2 games. So, you know, it's one of those things that we're strikers. We've got to get it right. So we've got to get someone in who's going to be not just someone who scores 10, 12, 15 goals, but a great link with the other players. And it's got to be the right kind of profile, hasn't he, in terms of working with Willock and whoever we sign on that left side, whether it is Milanic Ali, who we've been heavily linked with. But, you know, we just got to make sure, and I'm sure that we will, get the right profile player in. And I think the fans will be excited. I think we're all itching, are we, to get this striker over the line. I just got a feeling it might end up being the end of next week or just before the season starts, before a big announcement's made that someone we can get excited about.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, mate. I very briefly, like Tyrese Campbell is one which I think on paper makes sense. It's free, you know, it makes a lot of sense. But actually, when I think about it, I think I would find it a little bit underwhelming if he was our main striker option. If we brought him in after having already brought in another striker and he was like an option off the bench on a free, I think I'd be slightly more sort of happy with that. And look, you can't always, you know, it's not up to us, and there'll be reasons why they bring in any player, you know, for whatever it is. Ali Al Hamadi, I did like a full bit of research on him on top of what I kind of already knew. And the video I did is, I'd like to think, pretty relatively as thorough as a sort of 12-minute video can be. And I looked at, you know, both aspects: his goal scoring, his finishing, his creativity, is how his link-up play will be. And I think he ticks a lot of boxes. He did all right for Ipswich as well in the Championship, which I think is encouraging. And sometimes it's just it's just the right fit in it, the right club, right person.
Yeah,
and you could be dreadful one place, and you can be in a world beater at the next. It's just having that right fit, and it's finding that thing. Reese just says that Cody Draymond will command a compensation fee because he's from Leeds, his academy. He was signed from Fulham, so the comp fee wouldn't be too big. It's weird. I was relatively sure towards the end of the season that we would at least be in the run-in for Cody Draymond. Everything I've heard over the last couple of weeks has been that we're not. even considering him.
Yeah.
But I will, sort of nail on again. This, since the end of the season, the kind of leaks and the information you tend to be flying about of different people has been the tightest I can remember it being for a very, very long time. Like, Cardiff is notorious for like things getting out way before they're finished. Wayne Routledge, every man and their dog knew that we were signing Wayne Routledge, and then when he's driving up to his medical, he turns around and goes up to that place. Like, we're notorious for leaks, so it's been quite refreshing. Even though, for me, having those leaks and things is handy. I'm really happy to say that they've been a bit more difficult to come by, which is encouraging. So just because the general word seems to be that we're not in for Dramer, I don't think that means that we're not definitely in for Dramer by any means. So it'll be interesting, mate, because they definitely got a plan. They've definitely got a certain level of quality that they're looking to bring in. And they're also looking to bring in permanent signings rather than loan signings at the moment. And then they'll kind of complement then the full squad when it's complete with a couple of young loan QPR wasn't Swansea.
I think as well on the left back on the left back side. I do think we'll get someone else in. I just feel Louis Giles, as much as he's got a lot of potential, I think he'll go out. And I just think with Collins, obviously with his injury history, I think Bullet will want someone. I know we've got players like the Ralses and O'Dowd.
I think O'Dowd will play there, mate. I do. If I'm being honest, I think O'Dowd is going to destined to be our left back. That's not based on anything other than.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if that happens. I mean, he is versatile, but I don't. No, I know his opinions, and I can't see it happening. But it'd be interesting because he is a talented lad. But I can't. Yeah. I don't think he's a left back. I just
know they were super impressed with him at left back when he played there, not last season, but the season before. I just got a feeling that that's where he's going to end up. I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying that I've got a feeling that that's what's going to happen. Collins will generally probably be the left back, and then if we need to give Collins a rest or he's injured, I wonder whether it'll be sort of either O'Dowd or Tanner filling in. And then maybe Louis Giles gets a little bit of time here and there if he's not on loan. I think you're right. I think we'll probably go on loan though. But
Rousey did a good job, so I gave you a couple of times, covering. So if we need an emergency there, Rousey can always step in as well. But I think there's 3 or 4 more signings definitely to come in the next week or two signing. So it's all looking positive at the moment.
Yeah, there'll be more signings. I would expect more in the next week to 10 days. I'd expect a couple, to be honest. The other thing, very briefly, I'm not sure if I'm going to be about on Sunday for the breakdown. So what I might do is I might end up putting that Al Hamadi video out on Sunday, and then I might do the breakdown on Monday. One of the subjects that we're going to discuss on the breakdown is something which someone brought up in the chat earlier is, I think it was Reese said that he's a bit concerned that the manager's testing Aaron Ramsey out as a number 8 or playing a bit deeper. I understand that people will be concerned by that because they've saw him maybe not be as effective in a Welsh shirt during that role at this stage in his career. But I think it's generally probably just a pre-season thing, but we'll see. We shall see, because I think we're going to see a fit Aaron Ramsey, like a version of Aaron Ramsey who's fitter and sharper and stronger than we've seen for a long time. So it'll be really interesting. It'll be fascinating, mate, to see how he does this year with Ramsey. But we'll break all that down. It'll probably be Monday. The Flower Hour will be on tomorrow night. Sunday, I think, only because I literally, as we're doing the show, something's come up Sunday, which means I might not be around. Exciting for me, but I won't be doing the show. So it'll probably be the Ali Al Hamidi video, I would think, unless I sort someone else out in the meantime. But everyone have a great weekend. Make sure you check out the Flower Hour tomorrow. Ace Podcast Nation also got a new podcast out in the morning at 10 o'clock. So please do check that out and spread the word, because that does help me a lot. And that's the first episode of series 7 of my series, my story. And there's some big names on there this series. So make sure you check it out. Appreciate you, Pan. Thank you, mate.
Cheers, Si.
And we'll be back. We won't be back next Friday, because I will, at this time next Friday, I'll be sat next to the new Wales manager, asking him some questions. So we'll have something on Friday. Pan's working on something a bit special that he's going to hopefully get pre-recorded and stuff. So we won't give it away just yet, but hopefully that comes off, and it's going to be an interesting one, that for sure. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
In a bit.
Cheers, that.